Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be discussing the New Orleans Pelicans 2025 offseason recap. If it's your first time here, what we do is we break down all the moves that Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars have done since becoming the new front office regime in the Bayou. Now, I'm a Willie Green fan. I think he's a guy who, obviously, young coach who's gone through some growing pains, but obviously I don't see a lot of candidates being better than him. And I understand if they have to make a switch, but this year, the way the roster is built and what the moves that they made this offseason, obviously this is a Joe Dumars, Troy Weaver special. So maybe they actually think this is a competent roster, and I could be wrong, but I'd like to hear your thoughts as they committed to build around Zion Williamson, and it seems like the heat is on for him to prove his worth in gold. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you think this team did enough or not. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit that like and subscribe button. It will mean a ton and help out the channel. So, what did they do? So let's talk about the big moves. Herb Jones signed a 3-year extension. He's one of the best defenders in the league. He's a guy who's gotten better every year since being a second-round pick out of Alabama, getting better at scoring, becoming more efficient, showing playmaking, good rebounder, can guard 1 through 4. He's extended. He's going to be their defensive anchor, who's an all-defensive team caliber player for the foreseeable future, or a potential really coveted trade asset. Then, same thing with Trey Murphy, but Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, and Herb Jones, those 3 guys are actually a solid core. Two-way players, can all score from all 3 levels, as well as be guys who can guard multiple positions and play on and off the ball of Zion, who is the nucleus of this team. The front office rewarded Jones, and he's the elite defender that this team needs at the point of attack, with Yves Messi being the anchor. And when Zion tries, another versatile defender, as they have several starters locked in long term, which is good for a team if they had actual maybe contention ability down the road, which I guess if things go right could be the case for the Pelicans. Now, they went out and got Kevon Looney, which I thought was the type of guy you need to go out and get if you're being serious, need a adult in the room who's done it before, and bring somebody from one of the best teams over the last decade, and that's the Golden State Warriors, bringing Kevon Looney, a man who had his hips broken because he grew too quick, and they had to break his hips so that they would be realigned. Yeah, that's why he kind of like lumbers. Search up his high school tape. Absurd. Looked like he was going to be Kevin Durant. Jordan Poole and Saddiq Bey were 2 guys who they kind of got in salary dump trades, and that was Saddiq Bey could be a reclamation project, who is someone who flashes 2-way ability as a role player that's going to be able to provide some shooting at the wing position and some rebounding, while Jordan Poole's going to give him scoring. And, I thought he could be like the Eric Gordon for the Wizards in terms of a Chris Paul trade back in like 2011 or 2012, whenever it was. And he would become that guy. I don't know if that's true at all, but maybe he could be Eric Gordon for the Pelicans here. And this allowed them to bring in right here 3 guys who are veterans to help out a youth-heavy roster and replace a lot of the older outgoing veterans that left this offseason, which Bruce Brown, CJ McCollum, Kelly Olynyk are all gone. They let Bruce Brown walk. They traded CJ McCollum to Washington with Kelly Olynyk, who then got sent to the Spurs. This allowed them, to do some salary cap gymnastics and reset their financial commitments, get the salary cap and the payroll all cleared. They retooled around Zion and the core of Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. And they got other veterans in return. Smart way to do it. They brought in one of the better point guard prospects in this year's draft. It could be a 1 or a 2, more of a 1. He's 6'3", 6'4". Like, he's an inch or 2 taller than me. I'm like 6'1" in shoes. I talked to Jeremiah, walked by him several times at the Wynn in Las Vegas, interviewed him. He's not small, but he's not much bigger than me. However, he's a dynamic shot creator. He's got a good shot. I think it's going to be way better than the shot percentage he had at Oklahoma from 3, because he's going to take better looks and he's going to be able to develop behind Poole. So you have Derek Queen which is a questionable pick with everything, but he could be someone that is sort of like a modern day Al Jefferson. He's sidelined for like the next few months due to that wrist surgery, and they brought a player from my alma mater and Hunter Dickinson on a two-way. I mean, there was other players that could have gone, but that's maybe Hunter Dickinson proves me wrong. They doubled down at the guard position, at the center position, having multiple long-term investments there, due to the fact that I think you can't have enough of certain players if you don't know if the players that you think could be decent are going to fully pan out. So at least you're having multiple sticks or multiple irons in the fire. So let's talk about the depth chart right here. You have Jordan Poole, Jeremiah Fears, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, Derek Queen. I don't think this is the starting lineup. By the way, I think the starting lineup is going to be Yves Messi, Zion Williamson, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy. Probably to the start of the year, Jordan Poole with Jose Alvarado as the second string. Then Jeremiah Fears being a combo and a point guard with Jordan Hawkins and him splitting time between, him taking some minutes from Hawkins at the two, who Hawkins going to be more of a 2 and 3, and then taking some minutes from Jose Alvarado. Saddiq Bey is going to be more of a 3-4. Micah Peavy's probably 2-3. Karl Matikovic just switch big. Same thing with Hunter Dickinson. Kevon Looney, Yves Messi are their pure centers. They'll probably try Derek Queen as a switch big, but he's probably going to end up being more of a pure center. And Bryce McGowan's, Trey Alexander are their other two ways besides Hunter Dickinson, and it seems that Jalen McDaniels and Jaden Springer both on Exhibit 10s. Jaden Springer more of a combo guard with some point guard like skills, a defensive guy, and Jalen McDaniels being a combo forward, similar to his brother, just not as good. Those two guys, with the current roster being really at 15 players, they could make the team or be cut and play on the G League affiliate and get called up whenever they want. If they do that, then they get a $50,000 bonus if they stay on the roster for 60 days extra on their G League affiliate. But they seem to be making the team if everything pans out. This is a team that their payroll currently $183.7 million. $22 million of that is dead money due to waived contracts. So that pushes them to $205.7 million. Let me just tell you, they ain't going to stick there. That is a team that is going to make some moves to get out of this salary situation. Why? Because Gail Benson doesn't pay the luxury tax. So the luxury tax is $4.2 million in terms of room that they have. And the whole thing is $5.4 million in apron and $17.3 million in second apron, if that all makes sense. Because my understanding, even though they have dead money, the dead money doesn't push them into the actual payroll. So them being $4.2 million near the luxury tax means they're either going to make a trade, and in that trade, they won't take much more money back. So they would have to stagger players, or they're just not going to make a move all season because they don't want to move that. So they avoided that first apron. They avoided the luxury tax, but they don't really have cap flexibility, and they carry significant dead money as a result. But their book is going to clear up over the next year or two. So what did they do? They made a terrible trade. They traded next year's unprotected pick, which my assumption, if you're trading that pick unprotected, you have the assumption that you're going to be a play-in team or a playoff team. In a deal that, from a report, I apologize, buddy, we met at Las Vegas, and this is the popular article where Ansi Sala couldn't believe Troy Weaver was offering him this, so that he called Joe Dumars to confirm it. And they got that pick unprotected, Atlanta. So if this team isn't a playoff team, that's just the dumbest trade in the world, because it could potentially either become like an Atlanta Hawks pick that ends up becoming number one, or it's just going to be a lottery pick. And just generally, you just gave a lottery pick for Derek Queen, and he's injured, delaying his debut. Zion Williamson, his health, his weight still remains uncertain. So despite all these risks, Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver decided to double down on competing with Zion, Herb Jones, and Trey Murphy, while replenishing the team's athleticism, youth, and whatever you see fit in between. They didn't make a ton of moves along the margins, but what they did do was they reshaped the roster with cost-controlled depth, youth. They got rid of veterans like Kelly Olynyk, CJ McCollum, and Bruce Brown that allowed them to create financial flexibility. They added Saddiq Bey coming off an injury. He didn't play all last year because of that torn ACL. Jordan Poole, who's a 20-point per game scorer, and Kevon Looney, a NBA champion, who can be a decent passer, rebounder, and defender. They'll allow them to have or replenish the scoring, rebounding, and defense that walked or was traded. So the front office made a major risk by trading away that unprotected 2026 pick. So what it seems like, New Orleans, for some reason, took a bold path, betting that Zion is going to be an all-NBA player. Jordan Poole is going to become an efficient or similar player that he was over the last season and a half under Brian Keefe, and that their young players and rookies develop pretty well to be competitive in one of the most loaded conferences in the NBA, the West. So if you made it to the end of the video, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you think this was smart? Because I don't think it was. Let me hear your opinions in the comment section. Ciao.